Check. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started in about a minute or so. Please make your way to a comfortable chair when you have a moment, and we'll get started in about a minute. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Town and School meeting, Town of Hartford, 2023. Big congratulations to everybody who's made it here, both because of the snow, and I think this will probably go down in history as the lightest attendance in the history of Hartford Town meeting. So you were here. And honestly, I think there's probably 6 or 8 people in the room who don't otherwise have to be here. So special congratulations and thanks to all of you. As we get started, I'd ask that everybody stand and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and our flag is in the back here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, as we get started today, a few details. We have a town meeting and a school district meeting to accomplish today. We're going to start with the town, and the school goes second. We alternate year by year. So those of you following closely will know that this is the year that the town goes first. A bunch of thanks are in order for having this meeting organized here today, particularly given the weather. Our huge thanks to our Department of Public Works crew, who's been out at work since before dawn. And then the staff here at the school, who's done a great job getting the parking lot and the sidewalk plowed and salted. So. A few other folks I want to mention in particular. If you followed the meeting on Monday night, we have a fantastic town and school district meeting committee this year, and they're seated together in the back. So a big round of applause for Susan, Ryan, Nikki, Emily, and Adam. And then a couple more folks behind the scenes who will become increasingly in front of the scene here as we get to Tuesday, and that's our town clerk, Lisa O'Neill, assisted by Paula McNulty, HR Director. Which brings me to the point that this is sort of the second of 3 official events in our town meeting cycle. We had our budget and candidates night on Monday. This is our official town meeting day, and then all-day voting is on Tuesday. So those of you wishing to vote for candidates, vote on the budgets. That all happens on Tuesday at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. right here in this room. And I've looked at the forecast, and probably there'll be less snow than today. We hope. I think we hope, right, Lisa? Okay, good. Today's meeting will be organized under Robert's Rules of Order, which is a little bit more formal than we usually operate. It's not that complicated. I'll do my best to lead us through. If someone sees me getting off track, you can always ask for a point of order, which is to say you're questioning my judgment, and I'll look on you with a withering glare, but we'll try to get it sorted out. In that regard, under Vermont Town Meeting law, only registered voters of the town are permitted to speak today. I would, however, ask for your forbearance and permission to allow any town employee or school district employee who's here and wishes to speak to, answer a question or speak to an item on the agenda, that they be permitted to speak. And if I hear no objection, I will make that adopted by unanimous consent. So we'll do that. And there, I believe, is at least one individual who wishes to speak to an item, one of these social service agency items that'll be on Tuesday's ballot. And so when the time comes for that person to speak, I just ask that they let us know where they're from, and so as a meeting we'll know who they are. Okay, I think that covers the housekeeping here as we get going. So I'll call to order the town portion of town meeting for 2023. Those of you who are following, there were potentially some printed pages here in yellow. That's the agenda we're following. If you have your town report, it's also the blue, it's one of the blue pages in the front. So that's the agenda that we're going to be following here today. There are only 4 items on this agenda. The fourth, when we get to there, I'll say a few things about that, but the fourth is to do any other necessary and proper non-binding business. So if there's something you don't see on the first 3, there's a possibility we could entertain that under number 4. So our first item on the agenda today is to receive the reports of the town officers. I would ask someone from the select board to make a motion on that behalf. Okay, great. Or Mike, you can make the motion. Yeah.
You're not the moderator. I move to receive the reports of the town officers.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Kim Souza. Wonderful. Okay, we have a motion that's been made and seconded and is now open to discussion. Does anybody wish to discuss the reports of the town officers, which is to say, it's this item here, the part related to the town. And I would prompt anybody who has a question or a comment about the budget, this is an opportunity to do that. This is now in order to discuss the budget. If you do have a question, you could work your way down to the microphone. Okay. I'm looking around, I'm giving ample time for people to brush the snow off their shoes, and still seeing nobody. Okay, so the motion has been made and second to receive the reports of the town officers. If there's no further discussion, I will call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed say nay. Okay, the ayes clearly have it, and I will declare that the first item on the agenda has been adopted. Second item on our agenda today is to vote to collect town and general highway tax and the town school district's tax on real estate in 2 installments. The first being on or before August 18th, 2023, and the second installment being on or before February 9th, 2024, through the treasurer. I would ask the select board to move this item.
I move to vote to collect town general and highway tax and the town school district's tax on real estate in 2 installments. The first being on or before August 18th, 2023, and the second installment being on or before February 9th, 2024, through the treasurer.
Okay, motion's been made and a second from Ally. The motion has been made and seconded and is now open to discussion. If anybody wishes to speak to this item, feel free to work the kinks out of your snow shoveling shoulder. Work your way up to the microphone. Okay, I don't see anybody coming forward. So the motion has been made and seconded to vote to collect town general and highway tax and the town school district's tax on real estate in 2 installments. The first being on or before August 18th, 2023, and then second installment being on or before February 9th, 2024, through the treasurer. Hearing no further discussion, I will call the vote on this item. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay, a unanimous vote, so I will declare the second item on the agenda to have been adopted. Okay, the third item on our agenda today is to vote what compensation the town will pay its town officers from the general fund effective July 1st, 2023, pursuant to 24 VSA section 932. Moderator, $100 per meeting. Board of Civil Authority, $50 per 4-hour shift or any part thereof. Treasurer, $16,000 per annum. Select Board, $75 per meeting, with the chair receiving $300 additional per annum and the vice chair receiving $150 additional per annum. And such officials will receive mileage reimbursement in the amount equivalent to the rate authorized by the IRS when a town vehicle is not available to them. I would ask a member of the Select Board to move this motion.
I move to vote what compensation the town will pay its town officers from the general fund effective July 1, 2023, pursuant to 24 VSA Section 932. Moderator, $100 per meeting. Board of Civil Authority, $50 per 4-hour shift or any part thereof. Treasurer, $16,000 per annum. Select Board, $75 per meeting, with the chair receiving $300 additional per annum and the vice chair receiving $150 additional per annum. Such officials will receive mileage reimbursement in the amount equivalent to the rate authorized by the IRS when a town vehicle is not available to them.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, the motion is made and seconded by Mary, I believe. Great. Okay, we have a motion that's been made and seconded. It is now open for discussion. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to this item? I'm running out of snow shoveling jokes, and nobody's moving, so we'll, I think that I don't see anybody coming forward. Yes, potentially. We have a participant. Please introduce yourself and tell us where you live.
Becky Chalet, Town of Hartford. I'm just curious whether, because I don't remember what it was last year, whether there's been a raise, so to speak, for all of these people who serve the town so tirelessly, because I certainly would be willing to amend to propose a raise, but I'm just curious whether it's changed, if anyone can tell me.
We have a question. Are there any changes from last year to this item?
I don't believe, no, it's the same as it was last year.
No, there is none. I don't believe that's what.
There was a couple years ago. I mean, it was $50 per meeting for Select Board some time ago, and I've certainly brought this issue to Vermont League of Cities and Towns. Thank you, because I do think it's the position of being serving as a member of the Select Board and several of the other positions means that people who don't have the privilege of extra time in their life, who can't spend that much time without being paid a fair wage to participate in this process, are sort of eliminated from being eligible to participate. And it's something that I think I wouldn't be inclined to bring forward just within the town of Hartford, that I think it's something that if it was addressed on a statewide level, that would be something worth pursuing. So I'll vote in favor of this, and I'm happy and capable of serving with the privilege of time and energy for this rate of pay. Sorry, that was not very well articulated, but thank you for asking the question. It is not enough for some people to be able to justify to serve, I guess is what I would say.
Yes, Mr. Collins.
Yeah, long before COVID took hold is when the raise took place from 50 to 75. I personally believe that it's an honor to serve the town of Hartford. Many times I'm pretty negligent in putting in my pay for and I get chastised for that. I think it's an honor to serve. I don't believe anybody here serves for the money. Some people may think it's money related. If you do, I think it's the wrong objective. Service to the town is more important. With that said, we do put in considerable amount of time, or some board members do put in considerable amount of time to research what the agendas are, as well as the side research for comparisons. I put in tremendous amounts of time on it, but it's something I consider my duty to do. So I'll leave it up to the citizens of the town of Hartford if they should choose to give us more money.
In response, Becky, to your specific question, these rates are unchanged from last year. Is there additional discussion of this item?
if it's all irrelevant at all,
Uh,
I'm sorry,
do
Peter
we-
Merrill,
yeah.
Queechee, Vermont. If it's all relevant, let everybody know beforehand, the school board is planning to ask for a larger amount for exactly the reasons stated. We've had basically nobody run for our positions other than us for a very long time, and we have had positions sit vacant for a very long time for a lack of volunteers. I would love to think that it was due to the incredible gratitude and appreciation that everybody has for my job and how well I've done it, and that people would just had nothing to say except exemplary things about me, but I don't think that's true. I'm good enough at annoying people that it's probably not the case. So there should be other reasons, or probably are other reasons people are not coming forward, and we need to enable people to come forward. So just to, in case that's going to influence the town's vote, a preview of what the school board's planning to do, or at least some of the members of the school board are planning to do.
Okay, the item on the table, as you know, is
Mr.
compensation.
Moderator?
Yes.
I'm going to offer a different perspective. I think there is, of course, a matter of privilege in terms of being able to afford the time. But there is something kind of building off what Lanny said about, you know, I don't think anyone on the board serves because of the pay. And if we were to serve because of the pay, I think we would go find other things to do. There is some research done on actually disincentivizing people from doing things once you pay them, because it almost takes the joy out of that as well. So there's a balance, I think, in terms of what you create in terms of a motive. And I think something that I hear a lot of is, obviously, we're all up here on the dais or the dais equivalent here and in our meetings. And I think just the public tenor in our town, there's a lot of talk about the division and the polarity and the acrimony in our public dialogue, the public scrutiny that public officers feel, the level of scrutiny that public officers feel. I think somewhere in that, to me, seems like a bigger driver of what turns people off from public service in our community than the actual threshold, because I think if you were to actually make these fairly compensated positions, you would have to raise the rates quite a bit, because on any given week, especially during budget season, we may be putting in 10 or 15 hours. So you multiply that by 7, all of a sudden it's going to be a pretty substantial sum of money. And again, I don't think that may be the true driving force of why we would serve. It may serve to enable someone who is not able to serve. But I think that there are a ton of people who do take the time to do other things that they're passionate about that are uncompensated. So, and in that same way, I'm sure that all of us on the select board could easily find other productive ways to occupy our time outside of the select board. But this is something that we've chosen to sacrifice because it's something that's meaningful to each one of us. So for me, I think the compensation factor is worthwhile thinking about, but I think it's also should be part of a larger conversation about civility and dialogue within our community. Thanks.
Yes.
I'm not advocating for an increase or anything. I mean, we don't get a ton of money, but I will say that I look forward to the check because my wife banned me from buying books with any money that I don't earn myself. So I'm happy to see that and get a chance to go to Kindle or to one of our local bookstores. So I don't need a raise, but you know, it's certainly nice to get a little bit of extra money.
Yes, sir.
Russ North, White River Junction, also a member of the school board. And I think no one serves on the board to make money, but it is also a matter of respect for the fact that we take flack, we take legitimate questions, we're expected to be on call 24 hours a day via email. And I do think it's a slight disincentive for those who have children and need to hire a babysitter, maybe get takeout food. So again, a raise is a sign that the town would appreciate the efforts and maybe one component of drawing more people into running for office.
Is there additional discussion under this item? Once again, we're on the third item of the town's agenda.
actually know how to properly put forward an amendment. And if this dies because no one supports it, then great. But I guess my feeling is that it is, just as Russ said, it's about acknowledging and expressing our gratitude for the service. Obviously, it's not a truly appropriate compensation for the amount of time that you all dedicate to this service. So I'm just going to wing this, but tell me, tell me what to do.
Go for it.
And this is just off the cuff here, so this is really more of a token than anything probably meaningful. But I move to amend. Is that what I say?
Yep, great.
This particular article or whatever it's called, to increase the per meeting and per shift compensations for moderator, Board of Civil Authority, and Select Board by $25. So.
Okay. Yeah, do you want me to? Yep, great. So we have a motion from Becky to increase the pay of 3 of these positions: the moderator, the Board of Civil Authority members, and the Select Board by $25 for each of those 3. Is that correct? Okay, the motion has been made. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second,
Okay,
Kevin.
Mr. North has seconded. So we have a motion that's been made and seconded to increase the pay of the moderator, the Board of Civil Authority, and the Select Board by $25, to increase these numbers by $25 is the way I'll say it. Is there discussion on that topic? Yes, Mike.
I'm just going to note that I'm going to abstain from voting on it since it's on compensation that would go to me.
Okay. Noted that Mike will abstain. I think that as citizens of, it's a good question. I don't quite know how to handle that, if anybody has anything to weigh in on. You obviously are registered voters of the town, and I think that's probably the guiding principle here, since this is a meeting of the town and not the Select Board. So I will happily call for abstentions so you can be on the record. But I think Select Board members will be free to vote as they wish. Discussion, yes. Mr.
Yeah,
Collins.
I'm not going to abstain. I'm just going to vote no.
Votes will be recorded when the time comes. Yeah. I'll record the abstentions when we get there. Yeah. We have a question, Gail, that you may or may not be able to wing, which is any idea how much this would cost the town if we did this? I'm also happy to entertain anybody else who's quick on the back of an envelope to come up with a number. Let's, the Board of Civil Authority meets what, 4 or 5 times? On all the elections? Yeah. So the Board of Civil Authority alone would presumably be in the several $1,000s, I would imagine. Yeah. Yeah, Gail, do you wish to take a stab at it?
Sure. Gail Ostrout. I'm not a resident of Hartford. I'm a resident of St. Johnsbury. I'm guessing probably, in a rough estimate, probably at least $5,000 to $10,000 for the increase for those 3 areas.
It seems like it's probably as good a guess as we're going to get. So somewhere in the area of $5,000 to $10,000, we think this would cost. Of course, it will depend on how many meetings there actually are.
Mr. Moderator.
Additional discussion? Yes, Rocket.
Well, in the general fund, you have $38,250 set aside for Select Board salaries. Basically, if you take $75 a meeting, $25 raise represents a 33% raise. So 1/3 of $38,000 is $12,000. So that would be the Select Board raise component, and then you would basically take a 50% bump to BCA. I think that would basically round it out pretty well. So you try 15,000, I think.
Additional comments? Yes, Kim.
Thanks. I very much appreciate the motion and the principle of this project. I still think it is a larger discussion that might have served better taking place during the budget process, and Also, I think I will continue to pursue it on a state level so that the equity of various towns throughout the state are looking at this in a similar lens. So while I am in favor in principle, I think I also, just due to the format, probably would be disinclined to support it.
Additional discussion of the amendment. So right now, the amendment is in order, which is to say, to restate it, to add $25 to the per meeting compensation of the moderator, the Board of Civil Authority, and the Select Board. Further, yes, Mr. Collins.
Has the amendment been accepted by the original motion maker?
The motion was made by Ms. Chalet.
So she be.
Yeah, it's in order, yeah, and seconded by Russ.
Thank you.
Yep. Discussion on the amendment. Okay, since it's a pretty small group and it's a little hard to tell, and potentially this could be a split, I would ask for a show of hands. So the amendment is to increase the compensation of the moderator, Board of Civil Authority, and Select Board by $25 per meeting. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. I see 1, 2, I see 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 in favor. All those opposed, raise your hand. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. It's not a perfect vote. At least it's not going to hold me to it, but clearly more are opposed. And then abstentions are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and myself, 8 abstentions. Okay. We've had a vote on the amendment, and the amendment has not passed. So we are back to the original item is now in order. So I would entertain additional discussion on the item on the warning as printed. Is there additional discussion on this item? Okay, I will read it once again and then call for the vote. That is, to vote what compensation the town will pay its town officers from the general fund, effective July 1st, 2023, pursuant to 24 VSA Section 932. Moderator, $100 per meeting. Board of Civil Authority, $50 per 4-hour shift or any part thereof. Treasurer, $16,000 per annum. Select Board, $75 per meeting, with the chair receiving $300 additional per annum and the vice chair receiving $150 additional per annum. Such officials will receive mileage reimbursement in the amount equivalent to the rate authorized by the IRS when a town vehicle is not available to them. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay. The ayes clearly have it, and the motion has carried. So I will declare the third item adopted, and I will thank Ms. Chalet for at least giving us a chance to exercise Robert's Rules of Order in this meeting. Okay, we've come to item number 4 on this agenda, which is to do any other necessary and proper non-binding business. Couple things here to mention about how this item works. The first is that talking about candidates for office is not proper, which is to say it's not permitted under state statute. So whatever we do talk about under this item cannot be statements about the candidates on Tuesday. So at this point, your chance to weigh in on the candidates is on Tuesday at the ballot box. Anything that we do discuss here, motions that might or might not be made, are not binding, which is to say this body could advise the Select Board to do something and they could vote unanimously on that, but nevertheless it's not going to be binding on the Select Board under this item. And then the final thing to keep in mind here is this item lasts until you decide that it's over, which is to say at some point here somebody could call for the meeting to be adjourned. If they do that, I will immediately call for a second. And if that motion is in order, we immediately vote on it without discussion. So that's the way Robert's rules work. This meeting ends when somebody successfully makes and then has seconded a motion to adjourn and we vote on it. So short of that, the meeting continues. So I'm not going to call for the end of this meeting. We could be here until one of you decides that it's over. So those are the rules of the road here for this item number 4, to do any other necessary and proper non-binding business. Does anybody wish to speak under this item?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In the town of Hartford, my name is Mark Boutwell. I'm a resident of Heartland, and I am the Executive Director of Senior Solutions, which is the area agency on aging that serves Hartford and a couple other towns in the area. With your permission, I'd like to make a brief statement. And first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who signed the petition for Senior Solutions to be on the ballot this year. This is the first time Senior Solutions has been on the Hartford town ballot, at least in my tenure with the agency, which is going on 9 years. So I appreciate everyone's support of our being on the ballot. I'll also just say a brief thank you to the folks that we collaborate with here in Hartford, the Bugby Center, Brett Mayfield, and several other folks who participate in social service conversations that we also participate in. I have a brief written statement I'll make. Senior Solutions, the Council on Aging for Southeastern Vermont, is one of 5 private nonprofit agencies on aging in Vermont. We serve 46 towns throughout Orange, Windsor, Wyndham, and Bennington counties. Under the Older Americans Act, Senior Solutions is charged with helping to plan and coordinate a comprehensive system of services and supports for older adults age 60 and over and family caregivers. We also serve younger adults with disabilities. We do this with community partners such as local senior centers like the Bugby Center, meal sites, state agencies such as the Agency of Human Services, first responder services, local hospitals, local food shelves, the Upper Valley Haven, for instance, we work closely with, and other social service agencies. We have 36 employees and over 70 volunteers. Our primary service programs are our helpline call center, our long-term care and self-neglect case management programs, our state health insurance program, our nutrition programs, including financial support for local meal sites, our wellness programs, et cetera, et cetera. We also serve as advocates for older adults across southeastern Vermont by partnering with legal aid, adult protective services, and keeping our legislators informed on local and statewide issues affecting older Vermonters. At Senior Solutions, we strive for a standard of service across all our programs that include humor, grace, outstanding knowledge, and reliability. We are staff and volunteers who go above and beyond to assist, support, coordinate, and advocate, and to develop and support innovative programs that enable older Vermonters to age with dignity in the place of their choice, with the support they need and the opportunity for meaningful relationships and active engagement in their community. And I just will say that I will emphasize that while we are a service organization, I, as the executive director, take very seriously the mandate that we are an organization that develops and supports networks of providers. No single agency can do this on our own, so it's critical that we work together with other agencies to build a strong network for older Vermonters. And if you aren't aware, older Vermonters is the sort of, well, I'll say the fastest growing segment of the population, particularly in this area. And Vermont is the second oldest state in the nation. So this is a pocket of really important need and a demographic that is growing in our area, and we are striving to meet those needs. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mark. For those of you following, this is the item number 13 on Tuesday's ballot that Mark was speaking to. Yes, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Brett, excuse me, Brett Mayfield. I'm a resident of the town of Hartford. Excuse my voice, I literally have just landed a few hours ago from India and got a little bit of that jet lag. I'm here as the chair of the board of the Public Health Council of the Upper Valley. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank the residents of Hartford for supporting on the ballot previous years, the Public Health Council and all the work they do. And I'd like to just briefly, just a few things. It's one of those organizations you don't see a lot, but they influence public health in the Upper Valley, including the town of Hartford, in a strong way. We hold monthly meetings that gather all important entities around public health to coordinate and work together, get people to work together in public health. Through our executive director and our members, we help put on flu clinics throughout the Upper Valley. We worked extensively during the coronavirus pandemic, high-end area, in helping serve in clinics and for both shots and for early testing in the days. So I just wanted to be here today to thank the residents and to let you know we are on the ballot again this year. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Brett. And that's item number 12 on Tuesday's ballot, is the Public Health Council of the Upper Valley. Does anybody else wish to speak under this item? Yes.
Good morning. My name is Karen Morton. I'm the Executive Director of Good Beginnings of the Upper Valley. And we've been serving families of new babies for about 37 years. We have about 60 volunteers. And we have 3 main programs of our services. When a family calls upon us for some extra help during those first 6 months after a baby's born, or if they're referred to us through Dartmouth Health or their pediatrician or provider. So we have an in-home volunteer visitor program that provides weekly home visits, and all of our services are free to any family regardless of health needs or regardless of income. We also have an education and support program. We provide in-office consultation and over-the-phone support for families with young children. And we have a mentor program where people are connected virtually. So every family can request Good Beginnings. We serve both New Hampshire and Vermont, about a 40-mile radius of our office. And it just provides a smoother transition when a baby's born. And over the past year, Good Beginnings spent about 400 volunteer hours in the villages of White River Junction, Queechee, Hartford, and Wilder. And we trained volunteers from Queechee, White River, and Hartford as well. And we were really able to provide that support through all of our volunteers, which makes the cost of the $4,500 that's on the ballot come to the services for about $11 an hour. So we feel like that's a very cost-effective service for the villages of Hartford. Thank you.
Great. And the item that Karen spoke to is number 6 on Tuesday's ballot. Does anybody else wish to speak under this item? This is number 4, to do any other necessary and proper non-binding business. Okay, I see nobody coming forward, so I will nudge somebody to, yes. Yeah, come up to the microphone. Thanks, Joe.
Joseph Trottier, resident for lifelong, except 4 years in the U.S. Air Force. So my question is this, can we address other items within the budget, for example, paving in the general budget, overall budget? Is it appropriate at this time?
That item has come and gone. It was number 1. Given how short this meeting has been so far, I would be happy to entertain a little bit of discussion on this item. And again, if anybody wishes to end the meeting, that's also within our purview. So yes, I'll recognize you.
Well, I'll be short then. Okay, it's been brought to my attention by former chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Ken Parker, who said he could not be here today, but he thought this item might be worthy of discussion, and that is paving. He says, historically, we've had a 10-year program that would every year budget $1 million for paving. It's my understanding and his that the budget for that paving has been cut in half to 500,000. However, that does not take into consideration the increased cost of materials and so forth. As you know, everything has gone sky high, including paving and so forth. So at the very least, I think, and if we don't do that, if that is not done, you only spend $5 million in 10 years, okay, you're going to be way, way behind. Hartford has 154 miles of paved highway roads within the town, the highest in the state of Vermont. So this is a serious consideration. The roads are deteriorating, various spots, you know them, in the town of Hartford. And I think we need to restore that budget amount. Considering the overall budget, I don't think it's an awful lot of money. Otherwise, if we don't do that, you know, in a matter of 3 to 5 years, we're going to see the effects of that, the lower budget cost, and the further deterioration of the roads in the town. So I'd like to see that figure at least restored to $1 million a year. Maybe even put in a clause to consider inflation, and maybe that ought to be on a rising scale. That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chaudier. Just a point of procedure. So the budget item that we're voting on Tuesday cannot be modified today. And it's a lump sum figure. Now, the board and staff are free to allocate money within that number, but it's not within our authority today to modify any of the actual numbers. Does anybody wish to speak to that? Yes, Mike.
Chuck, just a clarification. I believe in the budget, after we invested a couple projects with ARPA, that the paving budget is actually like $775,000 in the budget. So it's not $500,000. It's not $1 million, but it's $775,000.
Yes, Gail.
Great question. That question's come up a lot in the past couple weeks, and Mike is correct. In the fiscal year 2024, we have set aside $775,000 in our reserve account for paving. We've also made the decision at the end of the close of this fiscal year, which ends on June 30th, 2023, any excess funds that were not executed for paving will also be deposited into that reserve account to make that grow. I did do some research, and looking at the last 5 years, the amount that's been budgeted ranges anywhere from $498,000 up to $723,000. Of that amount, the highest that's been executed is about $480,000. There's been a lot of challenges with paving, not necessarily all as a result of staffing, but there has been a lot of challenges with vendors in being able to get a vendor to be able to do the paving for us. And so we are aware of it and we are working on it. Thank you.
Additional discussion under this item number 4. Any other necessary and proper non-binding business? Yes. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn from Gabrielle Luke. I'll save you the trip to the microphone. Is there a second? Yes, Mr. Holmes, fantastic. A motion has been made and seconded to adjourn the town portion of town meeting. This is a non-debatable motion, so I will call the vote now. All those in favor of adjourning this portion of the meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and I will declare that the town portion of the annual town and school district meeting is adjourned, which is to say the next part of town meeting will be Tuesday, 7 a.m. right here when the polls open. Let's take a couple minutes just to kind of stretch, move around, and then I will reconvene the meeting on the school district side. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats and we'll resume in about a minute. Okay, I will call to order the school district meeting as part of our annual Hartford Town and School District Meeting Day for 2023. I've had two separate questions on the same item, which I thought I just would quickly address because it relates to Robert's Rules of Order. And the question was, who gets to make a motion and second it? Which is an interesting one, and it works as follows. Whoever gets the item on the agenda has the opportunity to make the motion and to speak to it first. So for example, in the town portion of the meeting, the select board had warned those three items, so they have the opportunity to make the motion and speak to it first. If there had been, for example, a petitioned item that was on the ballot, then the petitioner would have the opportunity to make the motion and speak to it first. So that's kind of how the town meeting, how the rules work and why we're doing it the way we're doing it. So we've now convened the school board portion of the meeting, so the school board will have the opportunity to move the items that are on the agenda and speak to them first. So with that said, we're under the school district portion of our meeting. The first item is to receive the reports of the Board of School Directors, and I'll ask for a motion and second from the school board.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion was made by Kevin and seconded by Russ. So we're now on the first item to receive the reports of the Board of School Directors. Anybody from the board wish to speak to this?
Yes, we'd like to have our Assistant Superintendent review the report to the town. And Roy Hathorn, please.
Hi, folks. Not so much in terms of reviewing what's specifically in it, but just to let you know what topics are covered in here so that you know what you'll be looking for. Within the report are letters from each school, from either their principal or their director. There's a copy of the ends, and if you folks have been following school board meetings, the ends is a topic of discussion and community engagement, so if that portion of the report interests you, I would encourage you to attend future meetings with us. Enrollments, any sort of general fund questions through our business department. Jacob has a section dedicated to any sort of numbers you would want from that. Access to how to find the school snapshot on the AOE website. We have our high school outcomes of data around testing and student plans. And then lastly, the school district's calendar. As with any of these topics, if you were to read the report and find yourself still having questions, I would strongly encourage you to email me at hathornr@hartfordschools.net, and I would be happy to engage. So that's what's in the report. Thank you so much.
Okay, yes.
And just a point of process, Roy is a resident of the town of Hartford, lifelong, and returned to be a continuing hurricane administrator.
Excellent. So the first item is in order. Is there discussion on receiving the reports of the Board of School Directors? Comments, questions, discussions?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Once we get to the open part of the meeting, there were some questions that came up during the candidates' night and budget review around school performance and activities that were involved with at the high school level in particular. And we got some additional information from the principal of the high school so that we'll be able to give an even more detailed description for the public.
Okay, in theory, that can happen right now since we have the report is in our hands. Essentially, you're elaborating on the report, so if you have information, I'm happy to entertain that now.
Okay, great.
Great.
So during our discussion, we had talked about, or the question was, with the increase in the budget, you know, how do we kind of reconcile enrollment and, I guess, value for our commitment to education? And one of the things that came up as a result of the additional research from the principal here at the high school is we've been trying to get a better tracking method of where our kids are going and what they're doing. We know where they stand when they're here. We have honors programs, we have continuing ed programs, we have specialized classes that are offered not only here, but at Dartmouth as well. And what's interesting is we have a number of students that will exhaust every single program that we have here at Hartford, and because of the relationships and work that has been done, are able to take Dartmouth classes and start their college work before they even leave Hartford. And we have a number of students doing that. We also have a number of students that get honors degrees from Hartford. Those students are usually that group of students that are performing at such a high rate that they need those extra classes because there's just no way that we'd be able to provide, let's say, a third level of physics, you know, or a fourth level of math. And so those relationships have really become helpful. Some of the specialized learning programs that we have not only help, you know, our students on the high end of the spectrum, but also help, you know, our students that are trying to find their way. We customize the curriculums, you know, now for students. You'll hear a number of discussions when you see state data around career pathways, and that has been long in coming, where educators are looking at the whole student and where he or she is hoping to go, and not necessarily telling them, but helping understand where they are and how we can help them get there. And the results speak for themselves, you know, as far as, you know, what we know to be true around the success of our students. And in some cases, we were having a discussion, you know, like earlier about how do you actually, you know, measure success, and what is that, and what does it look like? And you know, that's been a great discussion, and as we continue to do our work as a board on your behalf, during our second meeting of the month, we do community engagement, and that's when you have an opportunity to help us guide the district in its not only day-to-day work, but in its future work as well. So we're really excited about that. If I could request from the moderator to ask for our superintendent to fill in the blanks that I might have missed from the principal's notes.
Yes, and the citizenry has authorized town personnel to speak.
Yeah, I think, well, good morning. I think it's still morning. I'm Tom DeBolsi. I'm not a resident of Hartford. I live in Canaan, New Hampshire, but happy to be here. It's my 12th year as superintendent. So, yeah, a few things that came up the other night I wanted to address, and I think Mr. Christie got most of them. But one of the things we're particularly proud about in the district, but especially at Hartford High School, is catering to the needs of the individual. So our big focus is on what every single kid needs to be successful and to meet their goals. And I think we do very well at that. If a child or student wants to go on to college, we've supported them in going on to whatever college they want to go to and to meet their needs. If they want to go into the world of work, we've been very supportive of that. We have a very successful program at the high school with over 100 students involved called the Independent Learning Center, ILC. And students do projects there that are in their areas of interest. And we have an exhibition night twice a year where they showcase what they've done. So if you ever get a chance to come to one of those, it's really invigorating because the kids just do such a wonderful job. We've had kids write symphonies, we've had kids build guitars, we've had kids write the plans for garages, sheds, homes, bob houses, just really wonderful projects that the kids engage in. In terms of test scores, we're always trying to improve those. We look at data regularly, and we are concerned. We want those to be as high as possible. We want every kid to be able to achieve to the best of their ability. So we continue in our efforts to try to work on those scores. But our scores are within very close to the state averages, and a lot of times they're over the national averages as far as SATs and our standardized achievement scores. The other question that came up the other night was around the budget and enrollment. We have had a very, very steady enrollment. Years ago, it was predicted that we'd see quite a decrease. Unlike the rest of Vermont, we've maintained a steady enrollment. In fact, the last couple of years, we've had an increase. We have 35 additional students this year, pre-K through 12. We had 15 additional students last year. But overall, we've maintained a really steady enrollment. I'm really proud of that because that's not the case across Vermont. And I think some of the reason we've been able to do that is because we are individualizing things for the students. We work really hard to do that for the kids and the families. The other piece of data that is in the annual report that Roy talked about is the panorama data and the YRBS, is it? Yeah, data around kids and how successful they feel at school. Our scores and the VSAC survey indicate that our high school kids are really happy with the experience they have here and what they're able to do and accomplish. So I'm pretty impressed with that. The last question I think that came up that we weren't able to really respond to the other night was around ESSER funding, which is the COVID relief funding that we received from the federal government. So that money came in specifically for the school district to respond to and provide relief from the effects of COVID, which were significant and huge in the school district. As you know, for 2.5 years, we sort of hobbled along trying to make sure that we kept our schools open, that we kept our students and staff safe. So that money was really welcome and provided a lot of relief for the schools in terms of responding to the academic impact of COVID and that illness and that inconsistency that kids experience from their absence or their teacher's absence. So we spent $3.5 million of COVID relief money, federal money, to respond to those needs. And somewhere I have a list here of things we spent it on. Spent a lot on clinicians, so clinicians to, address students' needs around trauma of COVID, student needs about any sort of trauma at home. So clinicians and counselors, student assistance professional who responds to middle school and high school students with any sort of drug issue. We spent a lot of money on tutors to remediate the deficits or the lower scores, lower achievement of students K through 12. We have academic interventionists in every single school that were funded with the COVID relief money. And interventionists work on specific skills that are deficit or weak that we're seeing on test scores. So again, K through 12. We put quite a bit of money into pre-K, which is pre-kindergarten, 3 and 4-year-olds. Big push to make sure that we offer as much as we possibly can to young children so that they're getting off on the right foot. We can't say enough for our pre-K programs across the district. We support them very well and we fund them very well. The other thing that we funded was instructional coaches, and those coaches help teachers do the best job they possibly can implementing the curriculum in the classrooms. And another big push that sort of unfortunately started right when the pandemic hit was implementation of a new English language arts curriculum at the elementary level. It's a very, very intense program that required a lot of support and a lot of training for teachers. And we began it in 2019, the year that the pandemic hit, and we sort of had to, a lot of stops and starts to implementing that new curriculum. But we used some COVID relief money to support the implementation of that new curriculum. And this year, I'm happy to announce it's well underway, and people are really seeing the benefits of that new program. It's really great for kids, but again, it's very, very intense for the teachers in how they have to prepare and how they implement that program so that we get the most out of the instruction. So there's a few additional items. Sorry if I took too long, but happy to hear any additional questions or concerns from the board.
Okay, we are under the item 1 of our school district agenda, which is to receive the reports of the Board of School Directors. Yes, sir. Please approach. Introduce yourself.
My name is Jeff Arnold. I'm from Wilder. First question I have are these numbers about student plans after graduation. In the past, they used to add up to 100. If you have your book, that's on page 33. But now, like class of 22 adds up to 115, class of 2021, 123, class of 2020, 129. Why is that? Like from 2012 or 2013 up to 2016, it always added up to 100. But I don't have 2017, but I have 2018, which came out to 124. So why? And then 2019, there was only 89. Are those percentages? I mean, they must be because in previous years it would add up to 100. So why are these numbers so strange?
Anybody on the board wish to speak? Yes, or yes, please.
Jeff, are you speaking of the chart, student plans after graduation for the class of 2020, that chart?
Yep.
That's the actual students' plans. And
So it's not percentages?
no. And so,
So it must have been percentages previously in previous years because it always added up to 100 for 4 years in a row. And there was no way that you would have had 100 students 4 years in a row graduating.
I think 2019, you said it was down to 89.
Yeah, but before that, in 2013 through 2016, it always came to 100.
Okay. What I can do is I can double check on that with the school and make sure that it was a number, and that if it switched from numbers to percentages, at the very least we'll notate that as of a specific year they changed how they represented it.
Yeah, it
I'll
must
make
have.
a note on
So
that.
you have it, this year you had 150, or last year, 2022, you had 115 graduating, right?
There's another question, Jeff. We do have another person in line. If you have another quick one, go for it.
So on that note though, Jeff, what I can promise is that we'll make a note of that and that we can address that at a school board meeting and just clarify that as well.
All right. Well, previously, of those undecided, it used to be like 25, 24, 31, and those years from 2013 to 2016. And now we're jumped, the number of undecided kids who are not either going into 2-year schools or 4-year schools is jumped up to almost 50% of the student body. That's not too good.
What do you mean?
The other issue, you said that SAT scores were close to the state averages, but I went back to 2012, and it's always been, we've been 2 digits underneath in math and writing, like 18%, 18 points lower than the state average 2012, 20 below, this is in math, 20 below the average in 2013, 10 in 2014, 13 points below in 2015, 12 points below the state average in 2016, 9 points below in 2018, 18 points below in 2018, 56 points below in 2019, 16 points below in 16, 2021, 27 points below, and last year 44 points below the state average. I think we should be doing better than that. The writing scores are similar. So I would hope that with the amount of money we spend on education here, that we would have better results in those standardized tests. Just one last question.
Let's get a...
It's a short one. Tom DeBalsi gets a bonus every year, right? Who can answer that?
Correct.
Pardon me?
Yes.
Yes.
And he's always gotten a bonus despite these results, right? Has there ever been a year when he hasn't got a bonus? Okay. What was his bonus last year?
The bonus is a performance-based bonus based upon his performance related to the ends. And that is what we rate that on.
Academic
Okay,
is not
Jeff,
an end?
I think Jeff.
Academic outcomes is not an end?
Jeff, we've got your question here. Let me give the board a chance to respond, and then if you want to come back up, you're welcome to. Yeah. So we got 2 questions here. One's about the bonus, and one is about the scores relative to statewide. Anybody wish to speak to that from the board?
Yes, I'd like to speak to.
You go ahead, I'll go.
Okay, so couple of issues. The last couple of years on which I have the data in front of me, so I can't speak to the entire period that Jeff spoke to, but the last 4 years in reading and writing We have consistently been below the state average, but we have consistently been either just above or just below the national average. So half the years we were above the national average and half the years we were below. In mathematics, we were above 1 year out of the 4 and below 3 years, which is not, of course, ever where we would like to be, but there is a slight difference between our population and the population of both the state and the nation that needs to be taken into consideration when understanding these numbers. That is, we as a school district have committed to paying for all of our students to be able to take the SATs. The SAT is not normally done for all of the population. It's a self-selected group of people who consider themselves to be in the college track, and that they are therefore more likely to be doing well on the kinds of things that the SAT is looking at. We have deliberately attempted to make it available to everybody, and therefore our population is a slightly different population. The other thing is, quite frankly, tests like this are a tool. They help inform us. They help drive where we go. They are not the end in and of themselves. What is the end, if you look at our policies, is a well-rounded student who is able to function in our society. And that may well mean that they don't go to college. They become a very successful carpenter, plumber, auto mechanic, or any number of other things, which as far as I'm concerned is just fine.
Any other comments from the board on this?
Yes, I mean, there was a third question that Jeff had about the undecided. And I don't have any statistics for you. I just have personal observation. I've had 3 daughters who are recent Hartford graduates. And given the cost of college these days, many students purposely choose to take a gap year because they don't want to incur debt or expense to get a major that may or may not be what they do with their life. When I was graduating, I had extreme pressure from my parents to go to college, even though I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do. Now, it's a more thoughtful approach. And I guess regarding the SATs, I think you could say we've purposely included everybody so we have a baseline for total improvement, knowing that we're going to take a hit in comparison to schools that only report those students who self-selected to take it.
Great, thanks. I have another question here from the citizenry. Go ahead, sir.
Lanny Collins, member of Hartford. So my question is about ESSER funds. We've heard that ESSER funds were a huge and welcome relief for the school board. We've heard that we spent $3.5 million on ESSER funds. One thing we haven't heard is what our total amount of ESSER funds that we received from the government was, nor have we been told how much funds we have left from ESSER funds. And that's one of the 2 things that I would like to have reported to the citizenry. And I also would like to know if there's a breakdown of where all of these mentions that Mr. Balzi mentioned, where they can be broken down to. Fine. I know myself, as well as I believe Mr. Morris on a budget candidates night had this question. Particularly the amount of ESSER funds that are left, and regarding if those could be put towards the budget increase the school board is looking for this year. So basically around those questions. And I thank you very much. And I want to make a comment about educational goals at the town of Hartford. I graduated Hartford High School in 1984. I was not college ready at that point in time. I went into the service instead. I didn't go back to college until I was in my 50s. And my 40s. Went back to school when I was 42 years old. I got my master's degree when I was 52. All right, so life skills matter a great deal, and not everyone that is ready to come out of high school is ready to go to college. So school did me great back then. It's doing its best it can right now. So, but if I could have those ESSER questions answered, it'd be great.
Comments from the board, yes, about ESSER funds.
Yes. Thank you, Lanny. And I spoke with Mr. Morris yesterday, who sends his regrets not being able to be here. He's under the weather. So yes, we do have an answer, and to take 2 parts. When there was a specific purpose for the ESSER funds. to help mitigate, protect, and for the schools to stay open during the pandemic. There was an indirect financial benefit to the citizens of the town of Hartford because we did incur significant costs in terms of cleaning, upgrading HVAC systems, which without the ESSER funds might have led to a deficit in the previous year's budget, which then would have to have been funded in subsequent years. And in terms of your question about is there any money left, it's being spent in the year in question, which is why when we did the budget summary, there's positions that are still necessary to deal with the effects of the pandemic for which the federal money has run out, type thing. And in total, I can't do this without glasses. Could someone give a total of the total ESSER funds?
Total ESSER funds were $3,711,750. What we've expended so far, $1,876,389, and we have available $1,829,297.
I guess I'm confused on that, Mr. DeBalzi. You stated 3.5 million before. So
Yeah, I was talking round numbers, so the total actual is 3.7.
okay, that were received. So we have not spent 3.5 million. We've only spent 1.7 million of that funds.
Almost 1.9.
1.9 million. Okay. Right. And
We have this sheet actually available next to the annual reports, just in case you want all the.
So
details.
there's a breakdown of where
Yes.
the money was spent for each. Okay. How does someone find that on the website? I bet.
And we can put it on the website. It's not available yet, but
Okay.
it will be, because we believe in being transparent.
Thank you very much.
We could put the specific sheet on the website, but there have been several reports that would be part of the board meeting agendas that have been all about ESSER funding and what we've done and what we've spent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a second before you get to your questions, I want to answer the remaining portion of the question to the extent I can. This is going back to the bonus for the superintendent. It has run between $3,000 and $5,000 per year, depending on how the superintendent's performance was rated in terms of the goals that we had set him. And I quite frankly have always thought of this not so much as a bonus, but the portion of the superintendent's salary that was at risk for failing to perform. So I've always had a slightly different view of it myself, but that's more or less the numbers that we're talking about.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, another question. Yes, please.
Yes, hi, I'm Gabrielle Luke, Hartford Village. I have a comment and then I'm going to shift in a little bit of a different direction. One, as someone who did not go to college full-time until I was 21 years old, I'm excited to hear that we have youth who are taking their time to discern their choices. And I have a nephew down in New Jersey who's in trade school to be an electrician right now. And it was a big aha for my family of like, oh wait, let's all get off the college train and really look at what's best for him and the life that he wants to create for himself. And I will acknowledge that over 20 years ago when George and I decided to move to this community, we didn't know where our boys were gonna go. And we chose to live in Hartford because of the resources this school district provides to allow anyone to flourish. And I think that's a great example with our SATs, because I am confident there are some students who take that test who weren't necessarily planning on continuing their education, who learned that that could be an option for them in a different way. So I just want to thank the district for being open and present and really living Vermont's standard that education is for every youth and every student in our community. The comment that I want to make kind of moving into, and I so appreciate the report and us hearing about the data and the numbers, but I also want to give some voice to the resiliency of the youth in our community. And particularly, I want to take this opportunity as we gather as a town to just cheer the class of 23 and those classes underneath them. That I think about the joy when I look back at what my high school years were like, And when I think about the members of the class of 23, I'm sorry, I get very emotional about this because my son was in the class of 20. So we got that last semester. We know what that was like. But we have kids who spent these years that are supposed to be joyful and fun and exciting and traumatic and agonizing, really locked down in some ways. And I sat at the musical this year and watched those kids dance and sing and perform in a way that they hadn't gotten to do for years. And right now we have a group of young men who are track folks who are competing down in Boston representing our community, regional. Like, I want to hear about the youth. I want us to acknowledge the resiliency of the youth of this community. And not only those that go away to college, but I think about the young men who graduated with my son in the class of 27, who are opening businesses, who are contractors, who are people making a difference in this community. And I would love to hear, and particularly Roy and Tom, you know, can you talk to the resiliency of our students, like, and just give us some voice here in this space, that as we talk about numbers and data, you know, but what is the spirit happening in our schools right now?
Thanks, Gabrielle. Yeah, Tom, want to speak to this?
Sure. You want to start? Roy's going to start.
So I appreciate that. That is what we do. I would say the panorama data that we've reported on periodically shows that where the students feel socially, emotionally coming out of it. But I would say personally,
Well, like Gabrielle, Roy gets emotional when we talk about students. We all do. You know, we know that our kids are great, and we know that they're resilient. Every year, the last 3 years, I have the pleasure of speaking at graduation, and I talk about, you know, what these kids have been through, and I talk about what the pandemic possibly has done for them that they may not see. And you know and I know that the things in our life that have been particularly challenging, that have been really difficult, maybe the death of a family member, maybe some trauma, as hard as those are, they've provided us with that grit and that foundation to know that you can be successful in things, to know that you can achieve even though there's many obstacles. And so that's something we try to instill in our kids, as though, although the last 2.5 years have been really, really hard and really challenging, and it's been difficult for me to get up there and talk to them about what their future's going to be like and what their experience at Hartford High might have done for them. I draw on that. I talk about that because I know that for me, and I hope for them, that's going to serve as a really, really strong foundation and a catalyst to do well. I get a lot of criticism about our schools, and I got to tell you, I am so proud of what they do. I walk through the schools, and I do not see what some people are talking about. And I welcome you to come, and I will take you through our schools any day of the week, any time of the day, and you will be impressed. Quiet, well-run, clean, efficient. Kids are learning. They're working hard. They're excited about what they're doing. It's incredible. And I know that's, you know, coming from me, it's probably a little biased, but that's why I invite you to come in and see it for yourself. Or don't go with me. Go with someone else. Call the principal. Ask them you want to come in. You live in Hartford. You want to see what's going on. You know, so now Roy might be ready to talk.
I've pulled myself together. But I would say that it's the hallways, you can really feel it now. I think kids they're getting to experience school again, and it's really exciting. And just the tenor in the buildings it feels right. You see kids thriving in the areas that they are choosing to thrive. When you see a high school full of embracing Act 77 and the flexible pathways, I think that in a middle school you have a new administration that is really embracing an equitable experience for all children, and you can see it in action. But I would, much like talking to us about the ends at school board meetings, if you have questions, I encourage you to ask them, and then we can give specific evidence in a conversation that is useful and really moves you forward to having a better understanding of who we are.
Thank you. Just to zoom back out here, we are on item number 1, which is to receive the reports of the Board of School Directors. Are there additional questions or comments under this item?
Mr. Moderator, as you can tell, how important, our kids are, and the support that this district has given, to our children. And I don't see that everywhere in our state. We have a lot to be proud of, here, in Hartford. And what our kids have done, to make us, their parents and voters proud. And you can understand why people get very emotional when they talk about our kids. We're pretty fortunate, and I look at Esme, for example, here, I should say Representative Cole, Hartford grad, fairly recent, and now she's serving us as a state representative. I look at Sarah George, she's a state's attorney in Chittenden County. A few days ago, one of our graduates walked into the well of the House of the state, and I'm looking and I'm going, wow, what's he here for? And come to find out, he's the Assistant Attorney General of the state of Vermont. We have so much to be proud of, and not just those kinds of accomplishments. The young lady who was the staff assistant in one of the committees at the State House passed the bar exam this spring and now is working for legal aid. I mean, those stories we see time and time again, and they're all successes. The young man that, stopped me the other day and said, "Hey, Coach, I just got a new car." And it was a beater, but it was new for him, and he was excited about it, and he has a job, and he's working every day. That's an accomplishment. Or the young person that comes up and says, "Hey, Coach, you want to see a picture of my little one?" And you go, "Man, what?" The real hard part sometimes is when the student comes up to you and says, "You want to see a picture of my grandchild?" That's when you start to go. But
great.
We have so much to be proud of, as a community, and that's what it's about. I mean, even if Joe comes up and says, he graduated from all of our schools. Mr. Heavysides, who just joined the board, as an interim member and now is running for the board, was born and raised, went to the old Wilder School, and then comes back as a committee member and rebuilt that school. And rebuilt it in such a way that it makes it a model for the rest of the state. When I look at some of these situations in other communities, imagine a $163 million bond for buildings, or $50, $60, $70 million bonds. We don't see that here because we as a community have tried to the best of our ability to maintain our buildings, take good care of them so that our kids could have those opportunities and not put the pressure that we see occurring in other communities.
Great, thanks. Thanks,
So,
Coach.
Thank you.
Yep. We are under item number 1 on the agenda here, which is to receive reports of the Board of School Directors. Is there any other comment, discussion under this item? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of receiving the reports of the Board of School Directors signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries, and I will declare the first item to be adopted. We're now on to the second item on our school district agenda, which is to see what compensation the school district will vote to pay the Board of School Directors from school district funds pursuant to 16 VSA 562. Do I have a motion for this?
Second.
So I just need a motion to get this open. So the motion is as printed. I need a motion as printed.
I move it as printed.
Okay, great. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Peter and Russ. Okay, I'll turn it over to the school board, and I think what you're about to do is what I hoped you would have done on the agenda.
We don't have a printed copy.
Yeah, hold on for a second. We're working it through. So I think it would be helpful, whatever you're about to say would have been to have this printed in the agenda so we would have had it in advance, but go ahead and speak to this item.
So the language would be, shall the members of the Board of the School Directors be compensated $75 per meeting for the school year commencing July 2023, and the Board of the School Directors be compensated $300 for the school year commencing July 1, 2023, and the clerk be compensated $150 for the school year commencing July 1st, 2023.
Okay, so you see the problem that we have, which is, first off, I need to borrow your computer.
That's last year's language, so the dates need to be changed as I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're in a little bit of an awkward thing, which is, of course, the printed item is not really actionable. So rather than entertain this as a separate amendment, which gets another level of awkwardness, we're going to be voting on what Mr. Merrill just read, so I'll read that back and make sure I have it correctly. So the item that we're considering now, number 2, is shall the members of the Board of School Directors be compensated $75 per meeting for the school year commencing July 2023, and the chair of the Board of School Directors be compensated $300 for the school year commencing July 1st, 2023, and the clerk be compensated $150 for the school year commencing July 1st, 2023. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, second from Russ. Okay, so we have a motion that's been made and seconded on this revised version. Am I correct in saying that are these the same numbers as last year in terms of pay, or are these new?
These are the exact same numbers.
The same numbers from last year. Okay, great.
And they are the language that we had intended to get out. The issue is, of course, that some of us, having had a chance to reflect on it, want to amend that, but this is the starting point.
Okay. Okay, I hope everybody's clear on where we are. So we are on our item number 2 here, and the numbers in question are $75 per meeting, $300 for, I'm sorry, I shouldn't even, let me try it again. I'll read it once again. So the members of the Board of School Directors be compensated $75 per meeting for the school year commencing July of 2023. The chair of the Board of School Directors be compensated $300 for the school year commencing July 1st of 2023, and the clerk be compensated $150 for the school year commencing July 1st, 2023. And just to clarify, these are the same dollar figures that were approved last year's town meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay, does anybody from the board wish to speak to this before I open it up for comment?
Both myself and Russ North have independently come to the conclusion that we think that the numbers that were from last year are in fact inadequate. We had a very brief conversation. We don't have any agreement on anything other than that we both thought the numbers were wrong. And I was therefore going to amend our own motion to address that, to reflect, as we had discussed earlier, the fact that these numbers are not enabling people to run for, seek out, apply to the board to become members of the board. We've had one member of the board already who has had to drop out for family personal reasons, which I will not speak directly to because I don't know the details, but I do not doubt in the least the fact that being a parent who had small children, that the amount of money that you received for the meetings themselves wasn't sufficient to enable them to get childcare or anything else. And it doesn't, quite frankly, affect me at all. I, frankly, for almost all of my tenure of the school board, have not ever bothered to seek compensation for the vast majority of the meetings I attend on behalf of the school board. I get paid for the ones that are the scheduled monthly meetings, but all the other ones I basically have never bothered to turn in the paperwork. So that's not my motivation. In fact, I don't think that's the motivation for anybody who is on the board, but the ability to be on the board is at question. And for that reason, I'm moving that the per meeting, not money for research or anything else, because that's something we all have to do independently during our own time, but per meeting, presence at a meeting, be raised from $75 to $100 per meeting.
Okay, I have a motion on the table to change the number from 75 to 100 per meeting. Is there a second to that amendment?
No surprise, I'll second.
Okay, we have a second from Russ. Okay, so we are now discussing an amendment to the main motion. The amendment is to change the per meeting compensation for the school directors from $75 to $100 per meeting. Discussion on that item. Yes, Mr. North.
Okay. I'd like to first say that anything I say after this is my own personal feelings. I understand that I do not represent the board in this matter, and I understand respectfully that some of my fellow board members may even disagree with me. But there's a couple things I want to make clear. As Mr. Merrill alluded to, we seek reimbursement. It isn't necessarily a guarantee, and some of us are more honorable, more civic-minded, and do not seek reimbursement. Personally, I may be 50-50. And sometimes it's facts and circumstance, sometimes I just plain forget. So again, it is not a financial incentive to serve on the board. I guess the other thing I will say is, based on the result of the select board meeting, if I'm given the opportunity to run for re-election, I'm seriously considering not, because of the fact it is a disrespect. People don't show up to the meetings despite our encouragement, and yes, they're boring, and yes, we all have things to do, but it's part of the process that needs to happen for this district to run properly. We welcome questions. We welcome positive and perhaps negative critiquing type thing. And I guess the last thing I will say here is I would pledge, if the amendment passes, not to seek reimbursement for any future meeting, and to, if necessary, actually write my specific caveat that it doesn't apply to Russ North type thing. So it isn't about the money. It's a sign that you recognize we are performing a civic duty. I mean, in the state of New Jersey, the average board member makes $19,000 a year. Yes, it's much bigger, much more responsibility, but that sometimes the compensation or lack thereof can affect a person's motive for running for a school board or select board, and sometimes those motives are contrary to what would be the best interest of the district.
Okay, once again, in order right now is the amendment to change the per meeting dollar figure from $75 to $100. Is there discussion on this amendment?
Are you currently getting 75 like the select board or not?
Yes, 75 is the current figure.
All right. So in my mind, I think that's sufficient, and I think the reason that the board members stepped down was totally mischaracterized by Peter Merrill. It had nothing to do with finances. That member has enough finances to pay for daycare or whatever. So I take objection to that. I think the main reason there's nobody's running is because we have incumbents that never step down. We have Kevin Christie, who's been the chair for since, I don't know, when were you elected chair, 2010?
First time.
So you've been chair for at least, 13 years. And Peter, why don't you go out and start recruiting people to energize the board and step down and let some fresh voices step up rather than offer another $25 a meeting?
Thanks, Jeff. Other comments, discussion on the amendment to change the dollar figure from 75 to 100 per meeting? Yes, coming up from the back. No rush.
Hi, Jeanette Potter. I'm a parent and also a worker at a staff member of the school. I want to speak in favor of increasing the compensation and then also suggesting more civic engagement might be obtained as well by providing childcare for people attending and then also board members themselves. And I know there are a lot of wonderful high schoolers that would love to get a gig helping provide childcare. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Great, thanks, Jeanette. Other comments, discussion on the amendment? Yes.
Not to monopolize the discussion, but I guess in counter to Mr. Arnold's point about stepping down, we had an opening. One person put their name in to be appointed as a replacement. So I understand your point, Jeff, but I don't think the incumbency is a real impediment. Because if I go on a position that somebody strongly objects to, that's going to motivate them to run against me.
Further discussion on this item? Yes.
I just will say that, again, while I fully and totally support the principle behind this, I still think it's a discussion that should be had during the budget process and the expense, and so not, while I realize that this is on the agenda for today and part of the discussion, I think the amounts affecting the actual budget numbers would be better served, discussed during the budget process. So I will not vote in favor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call the question, please.
Okay, we have a motion to call the question, which is to cut off debate. To do that requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of calling the question, please just raise your hands so I can get a quick count. Okay, without being too scientific, I think we've got that. So the question is now before us on this amendment, which is to raise the compensation per meeting for the school directors from $75 to $100. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. So I can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 ayes. Those opposed to raising the rate, please raise your hands now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, the ayes have it. And the motion carries, so we now have an amended main motion on the floor. And I'll read it to everybody, which is, shall the members of the Board of School Directors be compensated $100 per meeting for the school year commencing July 2023, the chair of the Board of School Directors being compensated $300 for the school year commencing July 21st, 2023, and the clerk be compensated $150 for the school year commencing July 1st, 2023. That's the motion that's now on the floor for discussion. Is there additional discussion on this item? Comments? Okay, seeing none, I won't repeat it again since I just did it. All those in favor of the motion as I just read it signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, I'm going to actually call for a division because I couldn't quite tell. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, I've got 20 in favor. All those opposed to the motion, please raise your hand. Okay, I have 20 in favor and 10 opposed, so the motion carries. So that is our second item here on the agenda. Thank you very much for that. Okay, that was the second item on our school district agenda for today. We're on to the third item, which is to do any other necessary and proper non-binding business. And I'll remind you again, as was the case with the town meeting, the only non-proper business here is talking about candidates, since that happens on Tuesday at the voting. And anything that we do discuss and potentially vote for here is non-binding on the school board. But I'd be happy to entertain any comments or discussion under this item. And once again, this item lasts until someone makes a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I heard a second from Jeanette over here. So a motion from Jeff, second from Jeanette to adjourn. This is a non-debatable motion. All those in favor of adjourning our town school district meeting for 2023 signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Okay, the ayes clearly have it. And I will declare that our school district meeting for 2023 is adjourned. And I look forward to helping everybody shovel out in the parking lot. And after that, seeing you at the polls on Tuesday. Thank you very much, everybody.